guys, glad you're with us today. Got some really fun, well, good facts in addition to some, you can't make this up. So don't forget comments, hearts, all that. Almost ready. Hey everyone, welcome to Six's Pundit Pulse. I'm your host, Kathy Six. I know that you're listening either at 99.7, you might be listening on Facebook Live, or maybe later you're watching on Facebook, or you're watching at listening at WJLQ.com. Don't forget you can call at 231-900-0997. Again, that's 231-900-0997. Hey, if you want to advertise with this show, you can do that. Just give me a little contact at sixpunditpulse@gmail.com. So that's sixpunditpulse@gmail.com. We'd be happy to add your advertisement, and we can help you out with the wording, the recording, etc. So let me know. All right, you know, I always like to start with a few things that are happening around town. I'm going to repeat a couple today that I mentioned on Tuesday. I think they're good ones. Want to go back and redo prom? Oh, I bet there's a lot of people that would like to do that. Maybe you were with someone that today you say to yourself, why did I go to prom with that person? Or maybe you were wearing a wanky dress or suit or whatever, like I was. In any case, if you want to redo your prom days, you can do that at Pinecrest and Fruitport. They're hosting it on April 18th at 7 o'clock. Also, you might be interested in dueling pianos. Maybe you've never seen them before, or maybe you have and you enjoyed them so much that you'd like to see it again. They're going to be at the Lotus Room on Friday at 8:30. You do have to buy tickets. So this is already going to be tomorrow. You might want to look into that. Also, a friendly reminder that this Sunday is Palm Sunday. If you've not been to church in a while, that's okay. Most churches have no issues whatsoever of you just walking right on in. So make your start back to church today. Well, Sunday. Looking for an Easter brunch buffet? Lake Bluff Grill on Lakeshore Drive, they're having an April 5th from 10 to 4. Looks like a pretty big brunch they're having, so you might be interested in that. All right, let's get into some of our news. So much has been happening this week. I didn't even know where to begin. I'm going to start with the social media ruling. This affects everyone. This affects especially parents with children, but everyone in a sense, because social media can be very addictive. There were a couple of rulings this week that you might be interested in hearing about. So the step in the right direction was a New Mexico ruling has set a precedence with social media that it does in fact harm children. I think it harms adults as well, but the jury suggested that Meta pay, this is the jury suggesting it, that Meta pay $375 million in fines for misleading the public about the safety of social media platforms, particularly for children. Now, not like that is going to be a big bump in their costs, but it certainly sets a precedence. Hey, welcome Pat to Facebook Live. Glad you're with us. So the jury on Tuesday found Meta violated New Mexico's Unfair Practices Act by knowingly allowing child sexual exploitation and failing to disclose risks with, get this, 75,000 violations, identified at 5,000 per violation. Now, yesterday, another trial found that Meta was guilty of hiding the addictions of social media, using algorithms that were designed to appeal to what you've clicked on, and I know you know about this, and then give you more of that related whatever it is. And I know you know this just by going on Facebook, because guess what happens? You click on something and you say, oh, I think I want to buy a new shirt with hearts on it for Valentine's Day, and suddenly there's 100 advertisements for these shirts. Am I right? Yep. And you're like, wait, I didn't want you to do that. But that's exactly what happens. The 3 platforms that were affected with this particular one, which was the Meta, was Facebook, WhatsApp, and Instagram. But hang on, Google was also held accountable for YouTube. So this is not the only trial that's in progress regarding social media and kids, and I think that they need to continue. So according to AP, the lawsuits have come from school districts, local, state, and the federal government, as well as thousands of families. So there's a lot involved here. The courtroom showdowns are the culmination of years of scrutiny of the platforms over child safety and whether deliberate design choices make them addictive and serve up content that leads to depression, eating disorders, or suicide. And I dare say there's probably more than just those things. What you may not know, since it was kept rather quiet, is that TikTok and Snapchat settled before their trials even started. So they probably had an idea that this was going to happen. Hey, welcome Ray on Facebook Live. Now the question I can't help but ask is this: will this fine really make a difference? I don't know. Will there be changes? Will they do anything differently? Hard to say. This takes me back when I was a child and they had to start making cigarettes with the Surgeon General warnings on them. Remember that when those first came out? Well, you'll only remember if you're old like me. Most of you, if you're young, it's always been there. But they had been hiding the addictive properties of nicotine. And they'd done it for so long that finally they got sued, hurt them really big, and they had to admit in court, yes, they've been increasing the nicotine amounts to make them more addictive, and that nicotine is in fact addictive, and therefore the Surgeon General warning. And then of course they had to take the commercials off of television, which I thought was really helpful. Here's my suggestion. I'm just thinking outside the box here. So I don't think any child under the age of 18 should have the ability to get to any social media. And I know you're thinking, okay, well, parents are going to just let them do it. They're going to figure it out. But what if we made it so that kids could only get on if they had ID proof? So no account could be made. Yes, will some slip through the cracks? Sure. But if a child until they're 16 can't even have a driver's license, or they can get a state ID as well, but if you have to prove it with the information on your state ID and it has to cross-check, just a thought, it would fix it very easily, making it adults only. Of course, I'd still like the algorithms to change so that it's not addictive for adults either. How about the Senate hearings on sanctuary cities? Did you hear about that? Yesterday, the Senate held hearings on sanctuary cities, and invited to speak at the hearings were angel parents. Kudos to them, because I'm sure that was not easy. I mean, my question is, why do they even need to have these hearings? That's what's so frightening. If we followed Florida's example, arrest and then send home, the latest incident with Sheridan in Chicago wouldn't have happened. But of course, we've got Chicago that is a sanctuary city. There is a shift of criminals here illegally who are leaving Florida. That's the fascinating part, because of that rule. And they're leaving and going to other states that have a catch and release, or sanctuary cities. So Florida, if you're lucky enough to live there, you don't have to deal with it like the rest of us. So will this hearing make a difference? Based on current attitudes and of some governors and mayors in blue cities and states, I'm not holding my breath. I'm going to talk more about this in my section, You Can't Make This Up, later, because that's my favorite part of the show, of course. But I'm going to give you some pretty precise examples when we get there. All right, how about the Iranian talks? How do you think that's going? Have we heard much? Well, Trump is telling us that we are in talks, and I'm going to put air quotes around that, because I wonder, with whom in Iran are you talking? I can't say. What, a cardboard cutout? I don't know who they're talking to. He probably knows. I don't know. Anyway, there was a 15-point plan that was floating around, and it just so happened today they had a cabinet hearing, and I have to say this because it's so true. Like, it's unbelievable that we are seeing every cabinet meeting that Trump has is live with the press. They're allowed in. How many cabinet hearings did you see with Joe Biden? That's right, 0. But every cabinet hearing with Trump is not only open to the press, but it's completely public, so all of us can watch. And anyway, they were talking about this plan, and they did say there is a 15-point plan in place that they're talking about. And included would be Iran dismantling its existing nuclear capabilities. They have to commit to never pursue nuclear weapons, and no uranium enrichment on Iranian territory. What does Iran get? Some of the things listed were a full lifting of sanctions, the U.S. assisting in advancing nuclear energy for the people, so that would be like a nuclear energy plant. And then future missiles will be restricted to self-defense only. I don't know how they figure that out, but somehow they do that. Now, do I think these plans hold water? Well, I hope they do. But I am not holding my breath on this one either. Iran has yet to follow a single directive given since 1979, okay? Everybody, NATO, all the other countries, everyone. They've ignored them all. Iranian TV, strangely enough, is reporting to its people that the plan is not good. And I suppose we could say their reporters are being told to say that the plan is not good. So again, I don't know who they're talking to. Then Iran messages that they only want to talk, this is good, they only want to talk to J.D. Vance. That's what they're saying. Not Witkoff or Kushner. I want to say to the Iranian officials, whoever you are, and if it's the cardboard cutout, I'd like to tell that cutout, you don't get to be picky right now. You're in no position to do that. Keep in mind, though, this is something to keep in the back of your brain for later. China has been selling Iran ballistic missiles. And why would they do that? Well, they're not worried about being bombed themselves. And therein lies the problem. This is a very frustrating situation. And I said way back when, months ago, I talked about how Iran, Russia, and China had been doing military exercises together. So we need to break that up. Meanwhile, the stock market is still holding the price per barrel well above what it should be. And as I mentioned before, I'm not sure why that is, since we produce 85% of our own oil. Then again, I guess I need to know the stock market a little better. Hey, did you know about investigative subpoenas? I didn't know what these were. I just found out about them. Muskegon County has them. I didn't know this. This is interesting. So an investigative subpoena is something in the toolbox of solving crimes for police officers. And we have them in Muskegon County now. They allow prosecutors to compel witnesses to appear and answer questions under oath during an active investigation. So the police can go to the prosecutor and say, we need this information. this person's a witness, they're not talking. So they get subpoenaed under penalty of perjury if they don't. They just recently, and I think this is brilliant, but they just recently solved a crime in record time because of these investigative subpoenas. What a great idea. So if you don't provide the information, again, you're contempt of court. There was recently the death of a 26-year-old Robert Vernal Fletcher. He was shot and killed on March 3rd, but it was solved really quickly because of these subpoenas. They found the 3 people, the case was solved. So just be aware, if you're privy to any crime and you refuse to speak up, you might end up with an investigative subpoena. All right, now the next one baffled me when I heard about it. Did you hear about the quadruple amputee, his rise and then his fall? His name was Daley Weber. He's a quadruple amputee due to a bacterial infection. And he went from hero to fallen hero in a very short period of time. So Weber was actually featured on ESPN as an inspiration to disabled people everywhere. He became a professional cornhole player. Yes, I watched video of him doing it. It was pretty cool how he was able to throw, even though he didn't really have hands, but he manipulated the muscles on the arm, parts of his arms he still had, and he was great. He was really good. He was professional. But on March 22nd, Daley Weber was behind the wheel when a heated argument broke out with a passenger. Weber whips out a firearm and shoots him twice in the head, just like that. Then he asks the guys in the back seat, hey, can you help me remove the body? Their answer was, no, dude, not helping. Now, eventually, so the 2 in the back seat got out, and Weber, how he did this, I don't know, but he dumped the body 10 miles away in someone's yard. Weber makes a run for it in the car. And then he drives from Maryland to Virginia. That's how far he gets. And then he abandons his vehicle, but he's eventually found at a hospital. So I don't know why he was actually at the hospital, but that's where they found him. And he was extradited back to Maryland. So rise and fall can be quick. You know, the DOJ has been really busy, but have you heard mainstream media talk about anything the DOJ is doing? Any positive arrests or indictments? Of course not. But I'm going to give you some. All right, we're going to start with some dividends of the DOJ that are checking on some real fraud. According to the Office of Public Affairs, in Miami, a federal grand jury returned an indictment charging Congresswoman Sheila Scherfullis McCormick and several co-defendants with stealing federal disaster funds, laundering the proceeds, and using the money to support her 2021 congressional campaign. Not kidding, this should be and you can't make this up section. So McCormick, she's 46, and her brother Edwin, 51, stole, get this, $5 million from FEMA during the COVID vaccine, or the COVID time, for her campaign and for the personal benefit of her dependents and other people. All right, McCormick and Nadege LeBlanc, 46, of Miramar, arranged additional contributions using straw donors, funneling other money from the FEMA-funded COVID-19 contract to friends and relatives, who then donated it to the campaign as if they were using their own money. Good on you, DOJ, you caught them. Well done. Then we have a Stanley Yi Zeng, Matthew Kelly, and Tommy Shad English, who have been charged with conspiring to commit smuggling and export control violations. That's a mouthful. The 3 defendants are alleged to have sought millions of dollars worth of exported controlled computer chips from California-based computer hardware company to ship to China via Thailand. Honestly, chips, come on. But the DOJ was on it. Good for you, DOJ. All right, there's more DOJ stuff coming right after the break. You want to hear all this great stuff that they've taken care of, so stay with us because I promise there's a lot of good stuff coming. All right, we'll be back in just a few. Hey guys, any hearts, thumbs up, call. So much more good stuff. Got my tech guy over there working. He's got it. Trust him. Sorry about my turkey things. They stick up all the time. Ooh. Double. Oh, no, it's okay. Double for some reason.
You just hit stop when you're ready to.
Yeah.
Go back down.
Yep. He's got it. He's got it. These things are. Stay with me. Stay with me. It's good, I promise. Hey, welcome back to Six's Pundit Pulse. I'm your host, Kathy Six. I'm glad you're with us. Don't forget you can call in at any time at 231-900-0997. Want to advertise, like what you're hearing? Give me a message and email at sixpunditpulse@gmail.com. All right, DOJ, hard at work. That's what I was talking about. And they are. All right, the next one. This week, Ikram, okay, I'm going to mispronounce every one of these. Ikram Youssef Mohammed, Aisha Hassan Hussein, Sarah Sharif Osman, Shakir Abdinir Abdussalam, and Fadumo Mohammed Youssef. I apologize, whatever ones I goofed up. But I guess it doesn't matter because they all pleaded guilty to wire fraud for their respective roles in the, you'll remember this, Feeding Our Future fraud scheme. That's that's right. The one in Minneapolis, Minnesota. The one with the Somalians. That's probably why the names were hard for me to pronounce. A federal jury convicted Asif Merchant, also known as Asif Raza Merchant, of murder for hire and attempting to commit an act of terrorism transcending national boundaries. Good job again, DOJ. Merchant admitted at trial that the IRGC sent him to the United States to arrange for political assassinations and steal documents, and Trump was included in that. They caught him before, though. Good job, DOJ. Here's a Bondi quote about that situation. This man landed on American soil hoping to kill President Trump. Instead, he was met with the might of American law enforcement. Well done. Okay, let's move to some TSA updates. We are now over 500 TSA agents down. And I just found out today that it takes 6 months to train a TSA agent, and we don't have 6 months before the World Cup is here in the United States, and all these people are going to be flying in. So we have to get those TSA agents to want to come back. I'm suggesting that they get offered a nice bonus to return to work when this is over because they're already trained. But I mean, I don't blame them. Who can afford to go to work and not get paid, especially after 5 weeks on a low middle class wage, average $50,000? I mean, that's not a high pay. There's a proposal on the table right now to keep these TSA agents paid. The Republicans have offered to fund DHS while not funding ICE. And guess how the Democrats voted? Down the line, down the ticket, you got it, they voted no. with that offer, I'm not really clear what the Democrats want. I really don't, because they wanted ICE not funded. Well, granted, they are funded through 2028, so I don't know how you not fund them at this point. But what the Democrats said they wanted was offered. They said they want reforms. Well, that's already going on as we speak. In fact, they've already put into place the body cameras, the training, they changed the Secretary of DHS. They've been doing essentially what the Democrats want when it comes to change. So why no again? I don't get it. And I heard a congressperson today on the news saying, we're all going to go in to vote again today, and we're going to get the same results. They're all going to vote no again. And I can't remember how many times he said they voted, but it was a lot. My wonder is this. Could it be? This is me wondering. Do they want chaos, confusion? Do they want to see America fail because they want to see Trump fail? Is that what this is about? Because if you're getting what you want and what you say, and you still vote no, then you have another motive. Just thinking. Did you know that 3/4, speaking of Congress people, 3/4 of them are millionaires? Now, how is that possible on their pay? Now, granted, they're paid better than TSA agents, $150,000, but how do you become a multimillionaire on that? I don't know. Good on Ted Cruz, though. Kudos to you. He does not want to take, and has said he will not take his salary until DHS is funded. Wow, what a great, pave the way, man. Go, Ted Cruz. I suggest everyone take a look at how our Congress voted. And it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or Republican, how can you support the government shutdown? Hold your reps responsible. Call them. If they voted no, call them and say, hey, vote yes. I'm your constituent. You should do what I need. If you contact them, don't let them blow smoke up your hiney. Tell them what you want. They should be listening. All right, now we're going to move on to Arctic frost. Now this might seem like old news to a lot of people, but it's actually new news now because the hearings are going on. And there's a lot of ugliness that's coming to the forefront. Now, a lot of us knew about much of this, but it just hadn't been in hearings or any trials or anything were going on. But now we've got some people on the hot spot. So there was some hearings, and during the hearings, the question was raised as to how the spying and recording of phones compared to what happened in Watergate. And for those of you that are really young, you're going to want to look that up. But Watergate was a big, big deal. Okay, we knew about it. I knew about it. It was during Nixon's time period. So look it up if you don't know. But this is bigger than Watergate. They said it was way worse based on the scope. All right, so Don Brennan, who was at the hearings having to speak on all this, he lied about so much, including the Steele dossier, which was completely made up. So they said there was collusion with Trump and Russia when they just made it up. In an email, one of the CIA analysts says to Brennan, this just doesn't add up. It doesn't make any sense. We shouldn't use this. It's not true. You know what Brennan's reply was in this email? Yeah, but doesn't it ring true? Like, it doesn't have to be true. It just kind of sounds true, so let's use it. Yeah, Brennan actually said that. Let's consider the FBI in 2019 when they had Hunter's laptop. And they lied about it. They said they didn't. They said there was nothing there. It was a big hoax. I think they blamed it on Russia again. They actually had it. Among some of the most egregious was the collection of data on Republicans and people who were not even in office at the time. Kash Patel was one of them. So what happened to Kash Patel without his knowledge was, he was a private citizen at the time. They collected every device ID on him. a full log of every single call, text, and voicemail. Those that showed up was contacted when and for how long. They also obtained all internet session data, including the exact IP addresses, over a period of 3 years. And he had no idea they were collecting. This is completely illegal, by the way. This wasn't about communications. This was a complete view of his entire life. His routines, travel, relationships, finance, everything they were learning about his life. What hardware he used. Can you imagine if this was done to you? Can you imagine if someone went into your world that way? Frightening, absolutely frightening. And this happened in America. Judge James Boasberg approved all of those subpoenas. So there's a guy who's going to have to do some answering. It was all done in secret, and it was done with non-disclosure agreements. In other words, you don't get to tell anyone, you just have to stay quiet about the fact that I just signed off on all of these subpoenas to look at all of these people's stuff. Kash Patel wasn't the only one, there were lots of them. So did this stop after 2020? Nope. In 2023, they tapped Susie Wiles' phone, including a wiretap with her and her lawyer. And her lawyer did not consent to this wiretap. I think he was aware of it or where they were going to do it. And he said, no, I don't consent. So that makes it illegal because if you're going to wiretap, at least one person has to consent. While Wiles ended up becoming Trump's chief of staff. So I guess the FBI was hoping they'd throw Trump in prison and this would all stay hidden. I think that's what they were hoping. The Justice Department is finally looking at this whole mess. It's been a while. Starting with the attempt to stop Trump from winning in 2016, and then again in 2020. So what is mainstream media focused on? Are they focused on these hearings? Are they like looking at this and saying, oh my gosh, look at all of this horrible collection and illegal stuff that was going on? No. They'd rather talk about gas prices, which are ugly, granted, but this is some really big news. Here we have the largest scandal since Watergate, much bigger than Watergate. And the press, it's crickets. This should be earth-shattering. While the media screamed Trump was a threat to democracy, the Biden administration, Hillary Clinton with Obama's help, and all of these other bad actors were involved in this. All of them. And they said Trump was against democracy. I mean, come on. The problem is, so far, no one has been held accountable. And this is what I don't think. How is it no one has been charged yet? I'm hoping that's coming. We'll see. But the hearing is clearly showing that they have had known for a while that Brennan and others were involved in attempting to affect the outcome of an election, actually 2 elections. Okay, I want to update you on the deaths. I mentioned on Tuesday there was something going on at a house on Montgomery Street in Muskegon, and people were concerned about it. Big police presence coming and going. What we know at this point is a 47-year-old woman and a 52-year-old man were deceased in that home, and the preliminary investigation, so we don't know for sure yet, is that the woman may have committed suicide, but they don't know about the man's death. That's still unknown. So I just want to catch up on that. All right, we're going to get started with You Can't Make This Up. And I have a lot of them. This is my favorite part because some of this is just insane. Apparently, let's get started with my first one. AOC is getting psychiatric treatment. There's nothing wrong with that, by the way. Lots of people seek out help and should, especially if you have, difficulty navigating life. However, let's start with the fact that $19,000 was spent of her campaign money. I said that, yes. It was her campaign money she used for her seeking out psychiatric treatment. Okay, that makes no sense. And she's receiving ketamine treatment. If you don't know anything about ketamine, its side effects are hallucinations and detachment. I wonder if our campaign donors are going to ask for a refund. Hey, want that money back? Because you used it for psychiatric treatment. And I could just crack a really bad joke right now about that, but I'm going to move on. There's a leftist group on a plane to Cuba who are there to provide assistance. Yeah, that's what you'd think, right? There's this huge leftist group. They're all wearing their democratic stuff and their signs and their protest signs and all that. They're heading to Cuba. Oh, Cuba needs them, right? Are they there to bring food, electricity, water, aid, something? No, they're going to Cuba to protest Trump. That's what they're going for. Not kidding. You can't make this up. They're literally going to go to the streets of Cuba while these people are starving and have no electricity and protest Trump as if these people care. They're going to be like, hey, would you bring Trump over here because we really need some help. I'm absolutely certain that when you're hungry and the lights don't work, you're going to be grateful to anyone, and you're going to care less about anyone with anti-Trump sentiment, seriously. To make this even crazier, they're staying, you'll love this, in a luxury hotel. That's right. And they're complaining about an oil blockade, which are, you got it, fossil fuels. Yeah, that's the leftist group, okay? All right, here's another one. Hassan Piker states on his podcast that people in Cuba have an island mindset. The Cubans are just chilling, having the island mindset. People are just partying. Honestly, he said that. I watched the video. He's in Cuba. He's like, we're all just having a great old time. We don't have food, we don't have electricity, but we're all good. We're having so much fun. While relatives in the U.S. are having to send basic needs and goods to Cuba, this guy has the audacity to imply the Cubans are just all good. They're happy. They don't care about food and electricity. They're just going to go on the beach and party. All right, another one. I have so many today. Judge Nels S.D. Peterson of the Georgia Supreme Court had some fun with attorney Deborah Leslie. I saw the video, it cracked me up. I thought the judge was going to break out in laughter, I really did. When he asked Deborah for proof of the case citations she gave. So she's got this list that she gave the judge ahead of time with all of these citations of different previous cases. She's citing them, right? You remember having to cite things in high school and college, right? Put your citations at the bottom. So he says, well, where's the proof of these citations? I see the citations, but where's the proof? Because what she didn't know and the judge knew is that they didn't exist. So Deborah claims her appeal order was revised, and so that's why they weren't there. And those non-existent cases were cited in your, but the judge says, because he knows better, he saw both. He saw the first one, and then he saw the second one. And he goes, well, those non-existent cases were cited in your initial brief opposing the motion for the new trial. So I saw them both. Sorry, you can't use that. She was kind of blabbering, and I didn't. So it was kind of fun to watch. I'm wondering if she just did a quick search and used the AI at the top. Some people do that. And then whatever popped up there, she just cited that. I don't know. She's supposed to be a lawyer, but who knows? She could have done that. When we come back, I have so many more of these. They're great, right? And they get better. So stay with us, because you can't make this stuff up. All right, we'll be back in a few. Take a drink. These make me laugh. I hope they're making you laugh. By the way, Queen. always sounds like it runs twice when it first clicks. So 17.
Hmm?
I was just counting, so 17 minutes, because I have to stop at 1 minute. Hey, welcome back to Six's Pundit Pulse. I'm your host, Kathy Six, and I'm glad you stayed with us. Having a lot of fun with You Can't Make This Up. Hey, you can give us a call at 231-900-0997. Again, that's 231-900-0997. Maybe you have something to tell us about. No, you can't make this up. It's crazy, but true. You can also advertise on this show if you'd like, and you can send me a message at 6punditpulse@gmail.com, and I'd be happy to chat with you about that. All right, let's move on to the next. You can't make this up. This one's straight out of Michigan. According to Dave Bondy's Substack, so I'm going to give you the source, Michigan is directing nearly $44 million, taxpayer dollars, to grants for 27 school districts to replace diesel buses with electric and propane-powered models. The final installment of $125 million Clean Bus Energy Grant Program launched in 2024. So Governor Whitmer said the buses will be safer, and they will also make the environment cleaner and therefore safer for the students. Because, I don't know, do they sit behind the bus and breathe in before they get on? I don't know. Okay, Gretch, let's just talk. Have you ever driven a bus at all? Have you ever driven a bus in the winter? I suspect not. Now let's just say that, let's look at the UP recently that got that huge amount of snow. I believe it was 52 inches in 2 days. There was one district, Red Yard district, 5 out of the 6 buses got stuck, and these were gas-powered vehicles. They got stuck trying to get the kids to school. Okay, now let's have them stuck in an electric vehicle where you can't keep it running to keep it warm because the batteries will die. Or basically you'll have to have someone come and rescue these kids. But anyway, kind of funny. Unlike a standard bus where gas can be brought to them, electric buses, you can't just plug them in the middle of nowhere. Gotta leave the bus there, put all the kids on another bus, hopefully one with gasoline in it. Alright, freezing kids inside buses sounds like a really bad alternative. Alright, you think that's ridiculous? Remember the highways this past winter that had the huge car pileups? Remember that? The drivers had nowhere to go, but they had to wait for help. And the cars that were abandoned were the ones that were electric because they couldn't stay in them because they couldn't keep them running to stay warm. So, I'm not sure. This just is a complete waste of money in my opinion. It's as sensible as closing paint stores and places that sold gardening and outdoor supplies that we dealt with COVID. Or, hey, do you remember the lines put down on the stores that you had to go? Yeah. All right, how about another one? This one's out of Chicago. Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago, when asked if he would apologize to the parents of Sheridan, that's the girl who was shot and killed, because the second release of a gunman who killed her, and he was illegal, remember, was a direct result of Chicago's policy of catch and release. So the second time he was released was there on them, okay? Of course, he doesn't apologize. But he does this. He says, and I quote, "This president refuses to be held accountable," and he points the finger at everything and everyone else versus doing some real self-reflection on what his responsibility is. Okay, what? First, Trump has sent police authorities all over the country to send illegals back to their home country. He's had to fight mayors like you to get him out of there. He has stated over and over that sanctuary cities are bad and catch and release is a no-go. So the mayor actually said it. Was this a Freudian slip? Did he really mean, I need to look in the mirror? I should do some self-reflection? I don't know. Let's not stop there. The governor of Illinois gets in on it. He states in a press conference that, quote, there have been real failures. Those failures extend beyond the borders of Illinois. National failures. A failure to have comprehensive immigration reform. The president to follow his own edict to go after the worst of the worst. What? He actually said that. I'm not kidding. ICE has been all over the country trying to get the worst of the worst out and fighting mayors and governors just like you to get them out of there. And then you go, no, it's Trump's fault. Okay. Your state did this. You released him. The federal government's been trying to send them back. All right. Do you have someone in a nursing home? Do you know someone? I do. And in addition, I've had other relatives as well over time in nursing homes. Well, you'll be shocked to know, and this is frightening, that they can get a better rating through Medicare if a patient is diagnosed with schizophrenia and then treated with antipsychotic drugs. Yes, they get a better rating by diagnosing the elderly with schizophrenia. So what do the nursing homes do? They want a better rating. They start diagnosing people and then treat them with these drugs, these antipsychotic drugs, which, by the way, makes certain patients who might be a little more difficult calmer. I'm not kidding. Worse, they're not even telling the families. The families don't even know that their relative was diagnosed with this. The majority of people who legitimately have schizophrenia get it in their 20s, late teens, early 20s. That's when schizophrenia actually really gets diagnosed. That's when we start to see it, not in people in their 70s and 80s. That's ridiculous. It's incredibly rare to be diagnosed when you're elderly. This is scary stuff, so keep an eye on your family. What they suggested you do is go to the nursing home and ask them what the diagnosis on your family member is, what all of them are, to see it, and what drugs they're receiving. Seriously, you have to do that. It's sad. Okay, now this one, I'm a little puzzled on. I don't know what to make of it, but a school in California is putting into place a rap-based curriculum. You heard that right, rap-based. So no one but the school and those who wrote that curriculum seem to know what rap-based curriculum is. I don't know. I taught for 30 years. Was I supposed to rap out noun, verb, adjective, adverb? I don't get it. When the kids are reading, I don't understand it. I'm trying to picture it in my head and I'm unable to do that. We're going to do fractions today and we're going to wrap those out. Anywho, the problem here is that California has no accountability in their public schools for performance. So this is just basically trial and error for them, for some new age concept. Makes me think like Ebonics. Let's go back to that when schools try that. I wonder if they'll let the community know how this is working, because I know here in Michigan, there is an outcome-based we have to prove results. We have to give a statewide tests at lots of grade levels. Nearly all of them, as a matter of fact. Okay, so we'll see how that one comes out. You know, colleges are the cities on the hill for upholding diversity, right? They're all about their diversity. They are the wokeness of the country. And they demand diversity. Uh-oh. USC just got slammed for violating their woke agenda regarding the debate for their next governor. So California has one of the largest economies on the planet. So this is important because it doesn't just affect California. Their economy, their GDP is bigger than a lot of countries. So the next governor isn't just governing California, but a huge GDP that affects all of us. So there was a formula that was used to determine which people would end up in this debate. And it was based on fundraising, polls, all sorts of things. And guess what happened? So they let the program run. They pulled up the candidates who would be in this debate. And guess what? Every candidate of color did not show up in the top spot. The 6 candidates invited were Caucasian. The 5 not invited were minority groups. Can't make this up. All the Democrats except one from the Green Party so of the 6, 2 were Republicans, 4 were Democrats. And of the 5 not invited, all were Democrats. Interesting. So what happens? Well, the college is starting to implode as they're trying to be diverse, but still use an objective formula, and that doesn't know skin color. The formula doesn't take that into account. So the formula just throws out what it throws out. How did they handle it? Well, everybody went nuts, so they just canceled the debate. That's between a rock and a hard place, isn't it? One of the candidates for Newsom's spot in California has a great idea. Yeah, she wants gender-neutral Olympics. Yep, she actually said that. She states that we need to understand the attributes of athletes around the world. First, I'm guessing she was never an athlete, but let's just imagine for a moment that this happens. Well, we just wiped out every female athlete in every sport, except maybe, I don't know, curling and cornhole. I mean, you just wiped out every single female athlete. They can't compete with the numbers of a male athlete in swimming and running and every, what? She actually said that, I'm not kidding. All right, we have another good one. You can count on Jimmy Kimmel for some of these. Jimmy Kimmel states that Mark Wayne Mullen was a plumber before being elected to Senate, and then mocks him for being a plumber and now being the DOJ secretary. I apologize to all plumbers nationwide on behalf of Jimmy Kimmel. As if plumbers are stupid? What? It was shameful. Shameful what he said. He just dissed them all, basically saying, you are incapable of going into government and security. Okay, incapable of that. You can't do that. Well then AOC, I'm sorry, but you were a bartender. Should we go back on that on you? Maybe if he'd been a bartender, he wouldn't have got dissed. I don't know. All right, how about Larry Krasner? He's an attorney in Philadelphia. He gets behind a podium at the airport. Why he's behind a podium, I have no idea, because he's an attorney. I guess he wants his 15 minutes of fame. And he says he is going to have the ICE agents arrested for being in his airports. That's right, he said that. So I think he thinks he's going to sick the local police departments on the ICE agents. And what's really funny about all of this, first of all, it's illegal. You can't do that. The locals cannot arrest federal police force. But in any case, the people at the airport were interviewed. when he said this. So they go back and they start interviewing people at the airport, and they polled them, and overall they're happy to have the ICE agents there. They're glad that the lines are moving faster, the airport's safer. So the people are happy while he's standing at this podium crying out that I'm going to have you arrested. Okay, come on, Larry. You're irrelevant. Get out from behind that podium and do your job as a lawyer, which I'm concerned at now that you're a lawyer and you don't understand the law well enough to know that your local police force cannot arrest ICE agents. No, you can't do that. Again, I'm sure it's his 15 minutes of fame he was shooting for. All right, did you know that up until President Trump called Sharpie the company that makes pens? Yes, I love my Sharpies too. You know, if you're a Sharpie fan, you're gonna love this story. So up until this point, the Oval Office pens, not kidding, this makes me think of the hammers way back when, were $1,000 a piece for a pen, up until that point. So Trump is kind of frustrated. He's like, well, you know, these pens don't work very good. What's the deal? So he calls a company. He's like, hey, these pens don't work very well. Contact Sharpie. Can I get a good pen from you guys? Like some good Oval Office pens, because these are terrible. Then he finds out how much they're costing. He's like, what? Seriously? And they're like, yeah, we can do that for you. He's all right, what can you do for me? He's, oh, we can paint it gold. It looks really nice. We can put like a stamp on it. We can make it, you know, something that says the Oval Office. What do you want? We can put it on there. Trump's like, cool. Gives him all the things he wants on the pen. Guess how much Sharpie charges him? So he said, well, how much are these going to cost? I think we can charge you $5 for those. Seriously, I'm not kidding. $5. So we went from $1,000 a pen for pens that didn't even really work to $5, all mocked up and looked great. He said at the meeting today, now I don't feel bad about giving out pens. I can just hand them out. They're only $5 a piece. It's great, right? Well, you know, I'm sorry, but that just was really, really funny. And I have to go and leave you with all of those great comments on you can't make this up. Don't hesitate to send me some of these, because they're just a lot of fun when I'm talking to you. But I have to go, and I hope you have a great weekend. Make somebody smile. You have a great day, and I'll see you Tuesday on Six's Pundit Pulse. See you later, guys.